Alright, welcome back to the Tesla Truck channel. Today I thought I'd do something a little different. It would be like a first time doing something like this for me because obviously I just started creating this channel in the last couple of days. But I was watching this video by a channel called Gears Gadget. The presenter, I guess the creator, his name is Dan. And he was talking about how he thinks that the Cybertruck will fail for many reasons. And of course, being that I love this truck, well, I love what it can be, I have a lot of disagreements with it. And so I drop a line saying, if he mind, how would it be if I did a rebuttal video? And he said, sure, I can take it. So I'm going to go ahead and do a rebuttal video, but I'm not going to attack him. This is not about, trying to trash people or talk down on people, anything like that. I just wanted to be fair and watch his video and provide my own reactions as well as how I can counter some of his points, because I think that it's important for people to have their opinion but also have others counter their opinion based on what the other person perceives and what the other person sees. And in my case, I think a lot of the information in this video can be counter. So I'm gonna, drop some information on this video by watching it, and then I'm gonna pause it, and then I'm gonna just provide some counterpoints. Seems like a really nice guy. Like I said, this is not personal. I'm just doing this for fun. All right, so here we go.
So today, I'm going to dive back into this Cybertruck. I put a video out the night that they announced this a couple days ago. I've had a few days to kind of think about this, and I'm going to be totally honest with you. I still don't totally love the design, but I'm going to approach this from more of the means, I guess, of how it is as a truck and not how...
Okay, so truthfully, a lot of people did not like the design, and I agree with that at the beginning. But if we're going to look at it as a truck and functionality, I don't think the design should matter much. And I think him and I both have the same agreement about this. I don't think how it looks should be a really big problem in terms of how it performs and what it can do as a truck.
How I like or don't like the design, because even in a couple days, I have to say that the design has grown on me a little bit. I still don't totally love it.
Typical, very normal. The design has grown on a lot of people.
And looking at it a little bit more objectively, and oh yeah, before I do that, I did come up with some merch. Part of hitting 10,000 subscribers is the ability to put merch.
Damn it, I am now allowing someone else to put their ad onto my video. That's cool. We're just gonna watch through. Good luck though. I actually think it's a good idea. I hope you make some money off of it. I'm all for that. If one day I can get to that point and someone's willing to buy something that I put on there, hey, more power to all of us, right?
In the merch shelf down below, so you can see I have some hoodies here. I also have a shirt. So again, if you're interested, there should be appearing somewhere down below. I'm not super sure how this works. I think I sold one shirt so far, so thank you to whoever bought that shirt. But anyways, let's get back to the Cybertruck. I'm having a hard time with the Cybertruck, and please stay with me. The guys who are thinking that I'm just going to hate on this truck for whatever reason, understand it's all with a lot of thought process involved here. So when I look at a vehicle, especially a truck, anything that's meant to be a heavy duty or a utility purposed built vehicle, I look at it from a design standpoint. Form meets function. So with Cybertruck, they right off the bat say better utility than a truck with more performance than a sports car, but it doesn't have better utility than a truck. Yes, it's different.
Well, that is gonna be where our disagreement lies, because you're making a statement that it doesn't have better utility, but the vehicle is not out yet. We don't have it in practice. Like, we can't really play with it. We can't see how it performs, and we can't really give a personal take on its utility and practicality fully until we have that vehicle available. So true, Tesla can claim that it has better utility. You can claim that it doesn't. My take is that based on what I'm seeing so far, I think it does have better utility, but we'll get into that slowly.
I'm okay with the fact that I don't totally love the body lines, but that other people do. That's all part of how design works. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder. You know, the exoskeleton, it's a cool design. I mean, it's different, so I give them, you know, hats off for that. The stainless steel, it's 30 times harder, you know, than cold rolled. So
A little bit of a misinformation there. The steel is, it doesn't mean 30 times harder. It actually means, you should read it like 304 steel or like 316 steel. So in this case, you should think of it as like 30X steel. So it's a type of proprietary steel that is based on stainless formula, but with a little bit of special sauce that I'm sure only Tesla and whoever the manufacturer is knows about. So it's not 30 times harder. It's 30X steel.
that's all good stuff. When you start getting into the bulletproof and shatterproof, which those are pros, I'm not going to say they're not, but I don't really think anybody was asking for that. Actually, the same goes for the exoskeleton. Those are the things where it's, yeah, they're pros. I definitely agree with that. But again, you're solving problems that nobody's asked for, and those solutions kind of just create a whole nother slew of problems that I don't think needed to exist. The other thing,
Okay. Um, Sometimes people don't know what to ask for. Sometimes people don't know what can be and how good it can be until they get it. Um, for example, no one thought about having a giant um, phone screen, and the iPhone became the standard, and now all of our phones have a giant screen, right? So that's the standard. No one asked for Tesla to make a truck that's or vehicles that are safer than anything on the road right now, but it just so happened, based on their construction, their engineering, all of the Tesla vehicles have been some of the safest on the road. Um, Great crash rating, very unlikely to have rollover because of the low center of gravity. So while you may say that no one asked for these things, it isn't until people use them and benefit from them, that's when they can see the great things that are given to them without them asking. They are going above and beyond what people are asking, and somehow it will benefit the buyer, and I'm all for that. Um, the other thing you mentioned towards the end of that statement is that you say it created new problems, but you didn't really provide any examples of what new problems could be. So that's okay. We'll follow through and see your thought process.
thing is towing and payload capacity are both, yeah, they're huge pros for this Cybertruck. The
Absolutely. The payload and the towing is massive, especially on the tri-motor version, because I did a video comparing it to a Super Duty 6.2 liter gas engine from 4, and it looks very much comparable to that.
base model can tow up to 7,500 pounds, and I believe all the models have a 3,500 pound payload capacity, which would make sense. And then you go into the tri-motor and you get up to 14,000 pounds, and that's incredible for a truck. That's pretty awesome. Autopilot is great. The staples of Tesla that make Teslas great are here. This is where I go into the cons. This truck is kind of designed for nobody. Most people who are looking for a pickup truck that can tow 14,000 pounds are going to be doing that long distance. And even
Okay, that's a very big claim or statement to make, to say that this Cybertruck is designed for nobody. I think another way of looking at it is that this Cybertruck is designed for everybody. First, has the functionality of a truck. It has a built-in tonneau cover that makes it essentially a huge giant SUV with a really usable bed. And it also obviously is electric. So when you are using this vehicle, you don't feel like you're burning a lot of fuel or gas as if you were using a truck for daily driving. So although you may think that this truck is designed for nobody, it accomplishes the mission of being usable for everybody. Like, the only people that I think would have a difficult time with this truck are the people who live in Europe, like Venice or whatever, where like they have these little tiny roads and little alleyway where you can't fit this truck. But if you're in America, the majority of us will have driveways. Even in a parking garage for an apartment, you are still able to fit this. So I don't think this truck is designed for nobody. I think it's designed to be a vehicle for everybody. And I think, and I have to emphasize that this is more of a vehicle than just a truck. Okay, so this is incredibly important, and I think your point on this is very, I don't know, I feel like you're downplaying it greatly.
This one photo that Tesla puts on their website of this enormous, double-axled trailer, enclosed trailer. That's not something that somebody's towing around town. That's something somebody's taking long distance. With this 500-mile range on the tri-motor, that's not 500 miles with a 14,000-pound capacity.
Very true. And I also mentioned this in one of my videos. Based on the published numbers that we see here, that's speculative, but I think if anything, they're probably going to put it on the lower end. So 500-mile range on the tri-motor, if it was actually towing 14,000 pounds, I would say that the towing range will be between 150 miles, 175 possibly, and 200 probably, very optimistically, and probably at the most it can handle. But yes, it's gonna be about a third of what the total range would be if it wasn't carrying anything else and wasn't towing.
TFL Truck actually did a test with the Tesla Model X, and they did a towing test. And I'll link that up above. I do suggest that you check that out. And that towing test found that the Model X got 2.7 times less mileage when towing a full capacity load. So I would suspect that battery efficiencies are going to be applicable across the board. So with that being said, this truck is only going to get maybe 200 miles with a 14,000-pound load at...
I agree with you. Probably 200 miles max with 14,000 pounds on the tri-motor version.
200 miles, who's going to stop for an hour plus to supercharge? I just don't see it happening. And I don't want to come off as I'm saying I don't like electric trucks. I think the idea is great.
I just wanted to say that if you were able to tow 200 miles, that's a very long distance. I would say that the majority of truck owners do not tow that many miles in one given instance. And if the truck owner has any intention of doing like hundreds of miles of towing, I don't think they're gonna look at the Tesla as that vehicle because they would know better. I think if they are gonna be doing a lot of long towing on a daily basis for their work, they're probably gonna go with a twin turbo diesel, possibly a dually with a gooseneck, attachment onto the bed, and because they would know that for that distance they need certain things. So you're right, the Tesla truck is not designed for long towing. It's designed to be able to tow up to 14,000 pounds.
I'm just saying I don't like heavy duty electric trucks because in my situation, I moved from New York to Arizona. That trip was 1,800 miles or so. With the Cybertruck, I would have had to stop 12 times, and it would have added on 12 hours onto an already 3-day trip, which I never in a million years would want to add that kind of time onto a trip like that, especially I was doing it with a 1-year-old at the time, so you're not adding 12 hours onto your trip to do that.
All right, let me see. Let me rewind this just a little bit. So in this situation, let me see, where is that picture of the... Okay, so in this situation, Gears Gadget, Dan mentioned that he was towing this from the East Coast to the West Coast, and was that 1,800 miles, and he estimated that it would have been an additional 10-12 hours extra to charge just for that trip. Okay, so let's elaborate a little bit more on that because I think that's quite misleading. First of all, this trailer combination that you got here is definitely not for 14,000 pounds. If anything, the content in this trailer is probably going to be under 5,000, more like maybe 4,000 at the most. But let's just say 5,000, okay? Or let's just say it's 1/3 of 14,000. So if we were to speculate that the Cybertruck can do a maximum of 200 miles towing 14,000 pounds, and this is about a third of that. I'm guessing, and I'm just gonna guess here because we don't have a hard number and there's no way to test this out yet. Based on what you're towing, if you were to put the Cybertruck in place of your Silverado or Sierra, you would probably get a good 350 miles, maybe possibly up to close to like 375, but between 350 to 375 based on what you're towing here. So you definitely don't need to spend 12 hours recharging or losing 12 hours just to recharge the battery, because if you're traveling from the East Coast to the West Coast, like most likely every few hours you're gonna have to take a break, especially when you have a cute little kid in the car who needs some fresh air. So I think using an extreme example to highlight a point, but at the same time we're using extreme spec extreme range and then also extreme capability of the Cybertruck and how that is going to lower the towing mileage. To use it for this example, it's kind of unfair, because if that Cybertruck was only carrying like 4,500 pounds, it's going to have way more than 200 miles of towing range. And you know that, I know that, people who have trucks would know that. Okay, so let me move forward to the video where I think I was around this point right here.
Bought a car from auction. It was up in Sacramento. That was 700 miles each way, actually almost 800 miles each way. Anybody who's towing long distance, even for leisure, if you're towing a camper or something like that, you've blocked out vacation time or you have an allotted amount of time to do a certain thing. And
okay, so once again, let me rewind real quick to see what Dan is talking about here. So he went to Sacramento and he was towing a sedan on a trailer, I guess back, right? So the trip was 700 miles. Oh my God, I can't even find I'm trying to find that picture to look at it.
Car from auction. It was up in Sacramento. That was.
Okay, here we go. So once again, 700-mile trip. It's a long trip for towing. The first thing is that the majority of people will not be towing that, but when you needed to tow that far and long, then yes, having a vehicle that can do the whole round trip where you only have to stop one way, it's great. But let's just use this. Let's use this as another example. In this particular example, based on the sedan and the trailer that he has on here, usually most sedans are going to be around 2,500 to 3,000 pounds. Like the higher end, the heavier one might be 3,500 pounds. That trailer looks like it's not going to weigh any more than 1,500 pounds. So in total, this will probably be about 5,000 pounds. In this example, with about 5,000 pounds of towing, I can guarantee you that this Tesla truck will not lose more than half of its power towing it. So if you're driving 700 miles, so after about 300, 350 miles, you might want to take a break anyways, because who's going to be able to be on the road driving for that long without taking a break? You need to be out there, get some fresh air, stretch your arms and legs, eat something, use a restroom break. And that's very typical. So there's no reason to assume that by charging the truck that you're somehow losing that hour. You're just using that hour for other things that you would normally do in a typical gas or diesel truck anyways when you're towing and taking a break. There's nothing wrong with that. And so for me, if I was in the same situation, I would say that I'll take a break here, I'll get it charged. And if anything, I think that on a full charge, you can get up to like 350 miles towing this configuration. And then when you get there, you charge it again. On the way back, if anything, you probably have to do like maybe 2 or 3 charges just to travel that whole distance. I don't think it's a huge issue.
700 miles, blocked out vacation time, or you have an allotted amount of time to do a certain thing. And you're not going to add 12 hours of charging onto that trip, especially.
I don't think 12. I think 12 hours of charging it's definitely an exaggeration.
If that's something where you're just in a condensed amount of time. So the towing capacity, it doesn't mean a whole lot to me. Not a lot of people are towing 14,000 pounds around town. The payload capacity, 3,500 pounds of payload, that's huge. Again, this just comes down to the limitations of the truck. If you have a 3,500 pound payload in the back of that truck, you're going to be doing some pretty serious tying down of that load. This is where I get into the design of this truck. They went with this triangle shape with the stainless steel because that exoskeleton gives them that ability to ramp up that capability. But the problem is now the bed is limited as to your ability to tie things down. And using my truck as an example here, when you start loading up that much stuff, you need to have a means to tie it down. And typically that involves jumping all over the truck and being in incredibly awkward positions, ratchet strapping things down, jumping off the side of the truck. And you can't do that when you have this huge panel in the way. People...
I'm having a hard time believing that having this little triangular panel on the side is going to prevent anyone from getting on the truck and tying things down, because it may add, like, where it meets the rear door, that may be an extra 24-30 inches of height, but you have to remember it's sloping down. You're not going to climb up on the highest point. If anything, you're going to be putting your foot on the tire under the wheel well here, grabbing onto this slanted surface that gives you grip, and then you're going to hop on and tie it. And to emphasize another thing, this truck has these T-tracks on the bottom. Now let me see if I can show it in this picture right here, that you can probably have some hooks on here, and then on the side here they're gonna have some type of add-ons that allows you to use the tie downs. I don't see how that is gonna prevent you from tying things down. I don't see that as being a huge issue. The other thing is, because of the way the bed is built on the Cybertruck, it's lower on the side panel is lower towards the end, but it gets higher when it reaches the rear window. You have all this siding here that allows you to like push like tall appliances or whatever up towards the rear window, and you don't have to worry about it falling onto the side. All you have to do now is strap it and make sure that it doesn't move backwards by using standard tie downs and whatnot, and you're fine. I mean, having that side panel actually allows you to have more cargo bed trunk room because it's higher, so things don't tip over. I think that's a plus. I don't see how that's a negative.
People used to complain about the Chevy Avalanche for similar issues, and the Avalanche had nowhere near the capacity of what this truck has. So, again,
very true. Very few trucks in the full-size category has the capacity of the Cybertrucks, based on what they're saying on the website.
You design this truck that can do these incredible things, but then it also has limitations because of all of that, where you can't easily do the things that it's designed to be able to do. To me, it's just, again, creating more problems than it's solving.
I think this truck has created a lot of things that would make it easier for you to load. So let me give you some example. Look at this. You got this loading ramp right here that you can push things up. You got an air suspension system that allows you to squat the back of it down while bringing the front up so that it's easier for you to get on. It's got T-tracks. I'm sure the bag will have ways for you to tie things down. I don't see how that's a concern. We haven't even seen the full bed yet on the retail version, so we don't know. But I don't think that's a big concern. I think loading is going to be a lot drastically easier on this truck. The other thing that people tend to forget about this truck is that you don't just have the rear bed. You have the front space open and available, and it's low. And it's easy for you to put so much tools and whatever you need inside the front and save the bed for like possibly bigger, bulkier items. So people forget that, and they don't bring that up. But my goodness, that is a huge plus right there.
All of these sharp angles on the back of the bed. Go ahead and cut your back on one of those and tell me how great that feels. I mean, it's...
Please do not go ahead and catch your back on those sharp angles. As a matter of fact, try your best not to fall ever whenever you're working around a truck or tall surfaces. If you're on a place where you're high up, be cautious, okay? Do not fall onto anything sharp or hard. It could be this truck, it could be your truck, it could be your sedan, it could be concrete, whatever. Do your best and be safe.
Again, when you're doing these awkward kind of jumping around and tying things up, and you jump off the back of the tailgate and catch your back on the edge of that tailgate, It's not going to feel good on any truck, but if it's a kind of a blunt edge like this, it's potentially going to put you in the hospital. Now, this can
Yes, if you hurt your back because you're jumping around, not being cautious, you will be in the hospital. And I hope that any truck owner, any contractor, anyone who's working around their truck and loading stuff, be cautious. This applies to everything. I don't think this truck's particular angular construction is the exception. I think it's all the same. Never get your feet caught on that little what you call it, that little rope or band that holds up the trunk. Just be careful.
camping rig that they have, yeah, that's cool, but you don't need 3,500 pound capacity to pull that off. I kind of made a
There is something to be said about that, because having all that capacity actually allows you to not be worried about what you're carrying. I mean, if let's say one of these days somebody decides to build a camper that is good looking, that's suitable for this truck, having that extra payload helps, because it means that the frame is very strong. It means that you can haul a lot more things without worrying. And overall, I don't think having extra capability is somehow a negative. I think that's a pro, not a con.
another rendition of what I think this truck could have been. It could have kept pretty much all of what it is. Maybe you just don't have a 3,500 pound payload, and maybe you bump your towing down to 10,000 pounds, because most people probably just aren't going to tow long distances with a truck that isn't designed to tow long distances. This
Yes, if I don't think this truck is designed for towing long distances. I don't think the majority of people tow long distances. I think 75% of truck users probably tow once a year. I don't know how many tow more than like 100 miles. If you're looking for a truck that can tow more than 200 miles or more than 150 miles on a regular basis, you should stick with a diesel. Get that large fuel tank so you can do as much towing as you want. And the people who actually will use those towing, will use all that towing and need all that towing, they will know to not get this vehicle for that purpose. I think that's my understanding, and that's how I see it. Because if I need something with the capability, I need to get the right tools for it. So I don't think arguing that the Tesla is not designed for long range, it's a very valid point to make in terms of like what everything else that this vehicle can provide.
truck is enormous. It's not going to be a great off-road vehicle. It will be able to go off-road, but getting this thing down any trails or tight spots, good luck. The front of this truck.
So I think this is also misleading, because if you look at the Tesla truck and the dimensions, it is very much a full-size truck. Here I am looking at the Raptor dimensions. It's like a 220 to 251 inch long, 80 to 86 inch wide, and 76 to 79 inch wide. The Raptor is widely considered as the best right now for off-roading, and the dimension is actually slightly wider than the Tesla truck. So I don't see the Tesla truck being any different. The Tesla truck has higher ground clearance at 16 inch, so that's not a problem at all. Now, if we were to look at the Ram Power Wagon dimensions, you would see that the Ram Power Wagon, which is actually based on their Super Duty version, the 2500 version of their truck, it's actually longer than the Cybertruck. It is just as wide and just as tall. So those are all off-road capable vehicles. I don't see how the Tesla is any different. I don't think that people should be concerned using the Tesla as an off-road vehicle, because the vehicle of similar dimensions have been used for that purpose and they have performed great. If anything, the Tesla truck might be even better off-roading because of the higher ground clearance. The frame is extremely rigid, so it's you are able to climb and do all kinds of different stuff. I mean, I don't have a lot of experience speaking about off-roading with my own truck, so it's hard for me to relate. But just based on the construction and the dimensions, I don't think you have to discount the Cybertruck's ability to go off-roading.
Truck, being that slope down angle as it is, you can't see the front end of the truck. I mean, you're sitting basically looking out a window that slopes away from you. The whole front slopes away from you. you're going to have no idea where the front of that truck is. You're not going to.
I mean, if you roll down the window, you look out, it's just like every other truck. I'm not sure why you feel so concerned about visibility, because any truck right here, it's gonna be very similar. I mean, look at this. You roll down this window on the Ford, it's the same. You roll down the Tesla, it's the same. I mean, once you get used to your truck, um, you'll kind of know where the wheels are. You'll know its turning radius. You'll know how it behaves. So um, I don't see the construction as being a barrier to visibility for off-roading.
Know where your tires are in relation to what obstacles are around you, which is incredibly important when you're going off road. Even if they have cameras and stuff like that that kind of assist with that, which maybe they will. Anybody who's doing real off-roading is going to want to be able to assuredly look out that window and know where the front of their vehicle is, especially when things get dicey. It's incredibly valuable. So,
but this is just all based on experience. I mean, if you look at the driver's position on a Tesla truck and the Ford, I don't think they're sitting any I don't think they're sitting any further back compared to a regular truck. I mean, it's just the front, the windshield just slanted differently. You no longer have that straight hood on a F-150 or like a regular truck. If anything, the angle of view on the Cybertruck could be just as clear, if not clearer, because of the front being so sloped downward. You get to see even more. And who knows, maybe they have trucks, the Cybertruck will come with a seat that allows you to, raise it up at any time you want, so you don't have to have that issue. I mean, I'm a short guy. I imagine I would have a big concern with visibility, but with the way the Cybertruck is, I think it'll be fine. I'm sure it'll have all kinds of different sensors, a lot of high definition cameras on there. I think it's going to have all the latest gadget for safety and visibility.
the design of the truck itself being so long, being so wide, and being incredibly heavy, and having no visibility as far as where the truck is, it's not going to be a great vehicle to go off-road in any tight spots. I think that, in my opinion, that Tesla shied away from doing something a little more lifestyle. I think they shied away from that because of this Rivian. I think Rivian designed the truck that Tesla should have designed with the Tesla buyer in mind. Again, most people that are driving currently Teslas or even interested in Tesla as a company, they're not pickup truck drivers. So taking them and putting them...
Okay, so my view on the Cybertruck and Rivian R1T is that the Cybertruck makes the Rivian obsolete. It basically, the Rivian, I don't think it can compete with the Cybertruck whatsoever on everything, on so many metrics, specs, payload, towing, price. And if you were to look at the Cybertruck, it really is designed more for like a lifestyle truck rather than something extremely useful. It looks like a traditional truck. The bed is way too short. I think the bed on this truck is way too short. And I think some of the numbers here can be misleading, but I'll get into that as we progress on this video because I want to mention that again.
Them from their Tesla Model S into this behemoth of a truck that's going to be similar to a quad cab long bed pickup truck, which for even myself, sometimes you're catching curbs on turns. It's just not what that demographic is looking for, in my opinion. And it's also not what the truck market is looking for. Anybody who's looking at a truck that can tow 14,000 pounds is probably looking for a heavy-duty truck. Actually, Doug DeMuro made that point today.
I don't know who Doug is, but maybe I'll watch some of his videos. I'm kind of new to this whole Tesla debate thingy. Okay, so I think that once again we have to emphasize that the Tesla Cybertruck is designed to fulfill a lot of roles. It could be a truck, it could be a family car, it could be an SUV. You could buy this truck and go grocery shopping and it will still be good, because whenever you fire up this truck, you're not thinking of how much gas is actually burning. See, in a typical family, you have a small daily driver, perhaps a sedan, and then you may want a vehicle like a truck for hauling, carrying heavy stuff. But the majority of the time, any of those owners or people in those households, they're not going to want to drive the truck if they can avoid it, because they know how expensive gas is. Where I am in California, gas is slowly dropping actually. So right now, because I'm using like 87, it's at around 330. Sometimes I can get it for 320. But if I can avoid using my truck and use my Corolla, I would prefer to use a Corolla. The Cybertruck is different. You don't have to worry so much about that because you get great. Well, it's electric, so it's naturally going to be even cheaper. But also, you're using it and it can do all of these things, so you don't have to feel like you compromise. Like let's say you decided to go to Home Depot and you were going to pick up something small, right? All of a sudden you see something on sale. If you pull in with a Corolla, you're like, oh man, I can't really fit that inside the Corolla. But if you were in a Cybertruck and you're saying, okay, wow, you know what, this thing is on sale, I think I can fit in my vehicle, let's throw it in the bed. Done deal. You don't have to worry about that because you don't compromise it.
Incredibly valid point. I'll link his video
Thank you.
also. I suggest you check that out. Basically, the Rivian, in my opinion, it solves a lot of clever issues that current trucks that are gas cannot do. You get 400 miles on a charge, 0 to 60 in 3 seconds, so still just as impressive as the Cybertruck. A quad motor system, so you have a motor on each wheel, which is awesome for off-roading. A weighting depth of 3 feet, that's significant. And a max towing capacity of 11,000 pounds. Now again, you're probably only going to get 150 miles with that 11,000 pounds.
Okay, so looking at the specs, and I already did another video on this. One thing we have to keep in mind, okay, right here. Starting price, $69,000. Okay, that means the low trim for the Rivian is $69,000. What they're advertising, and this is what it always gets me, what they're putting up here, these are probably the specs for the highest trim, which doesn't start at $70,000 or $69,000. If you look carefully down here, you will see that it comes in 3 different battery sizes. If the starting price is $69,000, you're not going to get that 180 kilowatt hour battery. You're probably going to get that 105. Now all of a sudden, things change. Your towing numbers aren't going to be the same, right? Your range is going to be different. Probably 225, 250 mile range. Your acceleration is not going to be 3 seconds on that battery pack. And perhaps, well, actually, I shouldn't say that. That battery pack can probably give you 3-second acceleration as long as the quad motor is in place. If they're not lowering it to 2 motors, or I don't know, Tesla uses 1 motor on the low end. But if they kept the motor the same and the battery is the same, even at 105 kilowatt hour, I think it can still get to 3 seconds. But I don't know if the quad motor system is going to be standard on all trims. So I'm just speculating here, but if you wanted the top end Rivian truck, the 180 kilowatt hour, I'm thinking it's gonna have to be at least 85,000 to 90,000. That's just my estimate. That's just my guess. So we're looking at a vehicle that's possibly $20,000 more than the top end Tesla. So to me, I don't care how many inches, how many feet it can weigh inside water. To me, this thing is dead in the water.
But again, people that are buying electric trucks aren't buying electric trucks to tow long distance. Just not going to. Now the interior form, fit, and finish is, I mean, it's leaps and bounds better than what Tesla, with this weird like marble countertop of a dashboard that I don't understand at all. That rectangular steering wheel, which will never make it into the production truck, but even having it in there is just kind of dumb. Everything inside
the interior, based on the published photos of the Rivian, does make it look more traditional, more like a truck. It's got these wood trims and so on. What we have to remember about the Cybertruck's interior is that it's still a prototype. We don't know if this is the finalized interior, but they're going with a design where they want to minimize as much as possible to make the production of the vehicle faster and more affordable for the consumers. Simple as that. If you have everything on that touchscreen and you don't need all these knobs and dials, it's going to make it simpler. It's gonna make it more upgradable in the future, through software, that is. So I don't see that as being a negative. I think minimizing it and keep it nice and clean is it's a good thing. I'm not saying that there's anything bad with the Rivian's interior. It looks very traditional. It looks nice. I don't have anything problem with that. But that's gonna be more expensive to make than the Tesla, just based on that.
The Rivian just looks better fit and finish. You have a typical bed that you can access as this girl's doing here.
I'm sorry. The Tesla bed is not typical. The Tesla bed is a horrible idea. You have a full-size truck with a bed that's 4.6 foot long. Just think for a minute there. Do we have any production truck right now that has a bed that's shorter than 5 feet in length? Like, I don't think so. Even the Ridge line and all that, they all have a longer bed than that. 4.6 foot bed is not intended to be a vehicle for contractor to use, for typical handyman. I think 4.6 foot bed is literally like for grocery shopping. It's so small, so short. Well, I shouldn't say small. It's just short. And I know that they got this gear tunnel, which is a great addition. I don't mind that. But when you have to put plywood, lumber, it's just so difficult. Like, even if you wanted to haul something big, bulky, that fits in this bed, the idea that you have so little room to work with makes it harder for you to move and rearrange it. So I think this bed is a horrible idea. I think Rivian should go back to the drawing board and give the option of making this bed 6.5 foot length or at least 6 foot as an option, because there's no way any serious truck buyers are gonna look at this bed and say, I really like this bed, it's perfect for me. Now, I shouldn't say that. There may be some, a few, but those guys may not use a truck like a lot of truck users. They may not feel like it's needed to have that bed length. But for me, and I would say the majority of truck users, we benefit from the bed length being 6.5 foot long, or at least 6 foot long. That's why I actually regret having a Nissan Titan with a 5.7 foot bed. I wish it was just a super cab with a 6.5 foot bed. Like, if I had to go back and do it, I would do it.
Over the side of the bed for things like camping gear. The truck just looks great. I don't see how Tesla should not have done something like this. The only reason why I think they didn't is because Rivian beat them to it. But I think
the reason why they didn't do it is because they look at this truck and they say, this is the same old design. It doesn't have anything drastically new and different. If you were to go into a car dealership, a truck dealership, right, and somehow they magically are allowed to sell electric trucks next to the Ford and the GM, and you line up, like, let's say 4 vehicles. You got the Cybertruck, the Rivian, and let's say a GM, a Silverado, right, or let's say an F-150, and they were all priced at $70,000. I would say that the majority of buyers will look at the trucks and pick the Cybertruck at that price point. I can't see myself picking up any other truck at that price point if that was the option.
that was a good excuse to not come to market with more of a lifestyle truck, as opposed to coming out and trying to pretend like your EV truck is capable of being some heavy duty hauler that like for short distances. Rivian also has.
You will be surprised when this truck comes out. I just saw an article that they may be classifying this truck as a medium duty, like the 3/4 ton type of truck, because of its capability. I don't know how that's gonna play out when it finally gets classified, but based on the numbers, it is very much capable of being compared to like a 6.2, 6.4 liter gas super duty type of a truck.
Has this pass-through tunnel, which is just a smart use of space that other trucks currently can't do because of transmission tunnels and things of that nature. It's just a more manageable truck, and I think they're going to sell.
This truck, it has very similar width, right? It is a little bit shorter. It is a little bit shorter. So if we had to park in the same space, yeah, this might be slightly easier to park in that. But I've never had any issues parking a full-size truck in a standard parking lot. So Well, I shouldn't say that. I mean, I've had difficulties, but I don't see how this truck will be so much different because it's not drastically shorter. It's not that much shorter.
Sell more because of it. This would be something that would service somebody who needs a truck more than what the Cybertruck would. And this also serves people who aren't maybe as much of truck people. It just seems like better execution. What's weird to me is that Tesla.
Well, of course, I'm gonna have to disagree on that. I think the Cybertruck serves people way better than this truck, because the Cybertruck can be purchased at $40,000. I mean, this truck, dude, no one's gonna buy this truck at $70,000 on the low trim, and be happy with it when they know they can get the top trim Cybertruck that does everything, has a longer bed, better payload, better towing, better range, right? It looks better to me because it's different and it's unique. It comes with a tonneau cover, so I can put stuff in the trunk and cover it up and not have to worry about it getting wet or people going into it. It's just, to me, anyone who can make the argument, anyone who's willing to make the argument that this Rivian is possibly a better truck than the Tesla, I feel like they're in denial. And that's just my truth. I feel like they are in denial. They're not looking at it correctly. I think they either have a huge bias against the Cybertruck, or they're just willingly looking at a inferior product and claiming that it's better.
Tesla knew what their competition was months and months and months in advance. And instead of competing with their competition, they just went down a totally different path, which that's fine. But sales numbers
See? Oh, wait a minute.
will ultimately tell the real story. I just.
Yes, the sales number will tell the story. And I can say with 99% absolute certainty that the Cybertruck will sell better than the Rivian. It wouldn't surprise me right now if a lot of Rivian owners have canceled their reservation, take that $1,000, put $100 into the Cybertruck reservation, and then get back the credit for $900 and spend it on other things. I can almost guarantee that with 99% absolute certainty that this Cybertruck will outsell the Rivian. I just can't fathom a reason why it would not. I just can't. It does everything better than Rivian. It can do anything and everything the Rivian can do, but the things that the Rivian can't do, this thing can do.
I'm disappointed that Tesla didn't come out with something that was more geared towards their buyer and more geared towards a truck buyer. It makes no sense to go with something that's.
Wait a minute. They're making a vehicle that's more geared to their buyers, more for truck buyers. I don't see what's wrong with that market research. The majority of truck buyers will use the truck like a traditional car with the occasional hauling and pulling. If you're hitting a market that only has like 10% of the regular users needing full capability and the rest of the 90% are happy with it, you have a product that's going to be successful because 90% of people are going to be happy with this Cybertruck based on what it can do. The 10% who may need more long distance hauling, 200-mile plus hauling regularly, you're right. They should not buy this truck just for that particular purpose. If they need that specific tool, they need to buy that tool. You're not going to use a 1/4 inch driver if you need to be removing lug nuts from a truck. You're going to buy that 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch impact wrench. Same analogy here. Like you can't use an extreme example or cite extreme usage and assume that is going to be the normal basis for what the typical users are going to use it for.
Just so far off the deep end of that, it confuses everybody. To me, it just doesn't make any sense. So I give him an A+ for swinging for the fences. I mean, I will always say that that's a great thing to do. But in my opinion, all of these angles that you see on this truck, it's something that I think a startup would come out with because they don't have the capacity to stamp panels. They don't have the factory capacity to do what Tesla can do. So this to me it's more of an EV startup type of thing. I don't get it. That's my.
Well, Tesla has been in business for over a decade. They got like 1 million vehicles on the road. They are definitely not a startup. They have chosen the design wisely based on a number of factors. First, aerodynamics, right? Cost of production. It's going to reduce the cost of production. It's going to make it faster to produce because it's cheaper and it's easier to get the panels out. Elon also mentioned that the reason why they cannot stamp it is because of how hard that 30X steel is, and it can mess with the stamping press. So they have chosen wisely to get a vehicle that has fulfilled 90% to 95% of what a truck user typically needs. Make it affordable, make it futuristic, make it minimalist, and still retain everything that you need. In the future, you're going to be able to get all kinds of software update that can improve this thing. Not to mention, the thing that you can even reserve right now, which is full self-driving.
My opinion. That's why I think that this Cybertruck will fail. I think it will have a bit of a.
This Cybertruck will be so successful. I think it will be so successful that all other manufacturers are going to be playing catch up to it. I think Rivian is going to be knocked out of the water. I don't think they're going to be a huge factor in this. Ford and GM, Volkswagen, all these other manufacturers, Toyota, Nissan, these guys better realize that if they don't have anything to compete with this, they're gonna go the way of blockbusters. That's my opinion.
A cult following. I think a whole lot of those $100 deposits that people put down on this truck are $100 refundable deposits. I considered putting one down just to be able to put a joke video out saying that I ordered my Cybertruck. So if I thought about doing it as a joke, I'm sure a million other people have ordered their Cybertruck just to put some sort of social media post, Instagram post of a screenshot of their order, and they can get their $100 back tomorrow. I fully.
Well, look, if you're not convinced it's your money, no one can force you. If you don't put a reservation on and change your mind later, no one can fault you for that. If you're not convinced of the truck, you shouldn't buy it. But I, for one, I'm happy with my reservation. I hope people are just joking with their reservation so that they can cancel. I can get mine faster. Like, that's actually what I'm hoping for. Because if they wanted just to say, hey, I ordered a Cybertruck, but when it comes time to get it, they change their mind, great. I will be moved forward in the line, in the queue, so that I can get it even faster. I think that the majority of people, once they see this in person, once they see it on the road, I think they're going to change their mind. I think they're going to wish that they had put in the reservation earlier, because I think there's going to be a huge queue for this truck. Not just for owners, like regular residential owners. I think business owners are going to want this on their fleet. I think government agencies are going to want this truck. I think this truck is going to be so successful that I think Tesla may experience a lower number of orders on their other vehicles. Because if you think about it, why would you spend like $40,000-$50,000 on a sedan, and if you have the space for a truck like this, you can get the truck? I mean, it's so successful that they might be just like shooting their own foot because of that. But hey, as long as the truck gets delivered, I'll be happy. Never have I been convinced by any other Tesla vehicle more than this truck. This is the number one deal right now for me.
Anticipate a lot of those orders to cancel. So it doesn't solve any problems that the current trucks have. It just creates more of them. And that's where the Cybertruck loses me. Hats off to Tesla for swinging for the fences. But I think this is going to be just a swing and a miss. So anyways, with that being said, guys, thank you very much for tuning in. And I will see you guys next time.
I think this truck is a home run. I think any doubter needs to look at it more carefully. I think they need to see the truck for what it is and what it can be. Don't get so don't have vision, tunnel vision about this and feel like the truck has to be a certain way. It doesn't have to be like what the Rivian is, because a truck can be different and still be useful. You just have to be open-minded about it. I think a lot of people are speculating and putting a lot of negativity onto this truck just based on what they're so used to. It isn't until people get to benefit and enjoy what something new brings that they fully appreciate it. So I hope that people be open-minded about the truck and see what it can be rather than what truck has always been.